NSO engineering team. Has worked a lot with netconf, restconf, and Yang, ITF standardization work as well. So Perry is going to give us a tech brief on the new NSO Authentication Packages for the next 20 minutes. So stage is yours.
Thank you. Nice. So one tape was chord 1. But we'll start with a presentation. So my name is Per, and I work as a technical leader with NSO, developing, mostly northbound interfaces, RESTconf, netconf, JSON RPC, involved in ITF standardization in the netconf and netmod groups, and dabble in Yang a bit. So I will stand over here instead so you can see. I will show a tech preview of a new feature called package authentication. And I think, which one is next and which one is self-destruct? Green, let's try green. So you're in the correct talk if you want to learn how to stop worrying and write authentication code. Right? And a small disclaimer that I want to give personally because I was involved in building this feature as well. So this is a tech preview. It's released in rudimentary bits, which we will see in 6.1, but it's not a full feature yet. So it might what we see here might change when it's actually released as a feature on its own. So what is package authentication? It unifies sort of the external authentication mechanism and NSO packages. So the background is that we already have several methods of authentication customizations today. We have the external auth, we have external token validation, we have external challenge response, we have auth callbacks, and so on and so on. Neither of those were a good fit for what we were trying to do. So this work emerged during the single sign-on work, which you can come to my next talk after the break, and you can see the single sign-on feature presented. Sorry. And what we wanted was a general mechanism for using several custom authentication methods and not just one, which you are limited to if you use the external authentication. For instance, you can only have one external authentication script that you have to configure to use. And ideally, we would like to reuse existing code. For instance, if you have existing external authentication scripts, with minimal changes, you should be able to reuse those. Okay, so package authentication was created. So why do we need yet another method? It's already possible to use xauth, as I said, but only one external xauth script. And using package authentication enables us to have several scripts, possibly in interaction with each other, well, in some sequence of authentication method or order. Okay, so there are some limitations so far with what is released. So the only parts that are in NSO right now are the ones required by the single sign-on feature. And it's only available for the web UI and JSON RPC so far. But you can see at the demo later that I've hacked RESTconf to use it, which is in the preview disclaimer, right? So some future work then is that we will have the package authentication feature work on its own, and we will support RESTconf, which will also then enable single sign-on for for RESTconf. So a small spoiler that the single sign-on feature is only available for the web UI and JSON RPC right now, and not for RESTconf. And ideally, we would like it to hook into all interfaces as well with your authentication packages. So what is an authentication package? The internals of an authentication package is that it's basically an NSO package, and it needs this executable called scripts authenticate, and it should follow then the package auth API on standard in and standard out. And we will see an example of this, but it's basically an extension of the xauth API, and it needs to be, this executable needs to be executable within the NSO environment. So NSO needs to be able to execute it. So if it's bringing in some Python library, for instance, you need to, it needs to be available for in the NSO environment. Okay, so this is the standard in API call, right? So we have the one line on this format, which you might recognize from the external authentication, where you have user, password, the original request that the user came from. This is the HTTP referrer, probably, and then a request headers body for the actual request that we sent to the to NSO, to the authentication, and then some metadata for the connection, source IP, source port, what API it came from, the context, and protocol. And this is what it would look like then. Basic 64 encoded, the entire request, nothing else is filled in, and then the metadata. So we got this from the web UI over HTTPS, and for clarity, then this is what it had, like get/restconf. This is the HTTP request. No headers, no body. And then we could reply with accept username. This is a new call, because we don't, in single sign-on, you don't have the, or even if you say over HTTP, you might not supply the username in the call, right? You might go off to some identity provider, log in there, and then get a response back, and this response carries the username instances. And previously with external authentication, you passed username and password to NSO, and then NSO already knew about the username. But in this case, we might not. So the example output here would be maybe accept username, the user, the groups, UID, etc. More groups, home directory. Okay. And this is some more output that we can, or API return codes that we can use, or return lines. So we can use the old external authentication call accept. Our package can say that I can't handle this input, so unknown and some reason. We can send back content to the northbound API that it relays to the user. We can send a redirect to some URL, and we can do a reject, which is denying the access, or abort, to just abort all further authentication attempts. Okay, so a demo. Typing my password. Flamingo. So I would like my terminal on the whatever hand side. Shout out to the people on the stream as well. I saw people sitting and watching the stream. Can I maybe get my screen? Ah, it's me, of course. Sorry. Haven't sacrificed enough sleep to the demo gods. Okay, so this is the demo. We will send in a JSON web token. We will create a JSON web token package. And as all good TV chefs, I have prepared this. So we have a package called, an example called package auth. This is the required configuration, thanks, for enabling this package. So we enabled package authentication. We list our authentication, our example package in this list. This is our Yang model. Pretty basic. We carry two things, basically. A MAC algorithm and a shared secret. That's it. This is our authentication executable. Python script. One good thing is to have debugging or logging in your package, so that, and write that to a separate log, at least during development, because then you know what's going on. So far, the debugging mechanisms for package authentication is not that good. We look up some config. We look up these config variables, our MAC algorithm and the secret. We parse all the entire the input that we got. We fetch. This is fetching the token from HTTP, the HTTP header, the bearer authorization header, the bearer token. So we get the token. We look up the config. We extract the claims, and then we send back accept username, etc., etc. And if something didn't work out here, we reject with access denied. Okay, so since our example package use this JWT Python package, we need to create or activate our Python virtual env, start NSO within this environment. We need to reload our packages. It's loaded. Let's check the configuration we have. So I've prepared a MAC algorithm and a shared secret. Let's try. It will not authorize or give us access to RESTconf. So let's check our token instead. This is our token, the things we care about, except the signing and such. But this is the claims that we bring in. And if we send in this token, we are allowed access. Voila. This is how it's logged in by the authentication executable. So we can see the input, we can see the token that we had, and what we save. So this is what would be during development. I guess this would not be recommended during production. The audit log carries this new log symbol. Package authentication is used with what package, over what context, and so on. And that concludes the demo. So I think we have two Slido questions. If those could be brought up. We have 2 minutes, so.
Are you sharing or?
No, let's turn it on.
Let's see.
Oh, yeah.
So. Okay, so 2 people are interested in authentication. I think that's a pretty high number. So if you're finding, is there anyone actually finding the Slido app and wanting to participate? Hands up. No hands. 4, 5, okay, so we're getting. So this would be, so we don't do client certificates, if I recall correctly. So this is sort of like a low-key feature request session. I would vote for other header. Okay, so let's go to the next one. What other authentication, clear winner in bearer token, I guess that was expected. What other authentication methods would you prioritize to be included in NSO? This is a high key feature request, I guess. Okay, so I think PLM has dialed in it pretty good in the roadmap actually to these choices. Any other questions? Can I add my own authentication? Yes, you just write this scripts authenticate, create a package, and you can do whatever you want. But you cannot bring in everything, of course. We can now handle HTTP, so we can bring in an HTTP request into the authentication. We should be able to bring in user password as the normal flow from before as well. But other than that, you can add your own. The problem statement. The problem statement is that it gives a better way of packaging or delivering or using authentication mechanisms. So instead of having like an external auth script and then some Yang model somewhere and then connecting those and configuring, you have one package. So it's simpler. What is not possible to do before either is to use several authentication methods, possibly in sequence as well. So we can have like one single sign-on that we use. And if that doesn't work, we can do some local authentication or something else. Yes, so the last. Multiple authentication packages in parallel. I don't really understand what that means.
Multiple authentication methods. So can we run a package which is authenticating your tokens and the other one in parallel username password, and then you can switch what's coming in through the HTTP header. Is that possible?
Yes, that would be possible, but as of now, the plan is to run through the entire list. But that would be like if you have a JOT, then the package that could take the token takes that, and otherwise, if you send some user password, then it takes that. Or
That's possible.
yes, that's on. It's not possible now, but it will be possible. Okay.
I think we have to conclude there.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Great session.